Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I think, as you guys mentioned, right, we have a sufficient amount of time where you're going to interact with me and I'm going to interact with you guys. So the whole idea is to make this more fruitful, right? I'll be more than happy if you guys achieve certifications. That's exactly very important. And we'll learn about why it is important and all of the stuff in upcoming slides. Before we start today's session, we go around the details, the specifics of it. Let me talk about myself. So I think my name is Sanchit. I'm based out of Mumbai in India. I always passionate about certifications. So currently, if I talk about, I hold all the 11x certifications of AWS. I hold all the Kubernetes certifications. I used to hold all the Oracle certifications also. Along with that, I have like a couple of other open source, right? So the whole idea for me is to learn about technology, to learn about the nitty-gritty of each things. So I get an idea what works best in a given situation, a given time frame. That's fun. So I am always very open, very keen about learning new things on technology. That's about myself. If I talk about on the professional side, I work as a lead architect at Quantify. It's a Boston-based company. We have an existence across the world. So I work as a lead architect around data solutions and all. I work for AWS channel there. That's about my professional. And in other stuff, when I'm not doing technology or working for Quantify, I work closely with multiple user groups, multiple colleges based out of India. So there are a couple, I mean, running bootcamp, I would say is a passion of mine. I've run this cloud practitioner bootcamp in the past for one of the user group in India. Currently, we are running a solution architect bootcamp with couple of in association with couple of user groups. And now I'm running this cloud practitioner bootcamp with an opportunity given from women in big data community as well as the user group Bangladesh. So that's exactly what my passion is, that the sessions has to be backed up by hands-on demos. And there is something learning, something fruitful outcome for the audience outside for me. That's what gives me more satisfaction that you guys learn something out of it. That's why I'm more focused on doing technical workshops and all. So that's about myself. As mentioned, I'm very open, very interactive person. So you can reach out to Slack. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on both these stuff, right? So don't hesitate. You have any doubts, the best part, this is a Zoom forum. So you can either put your message on the chat. If you have any queries, you can put me in one-to-one. If it is something very confidential respect to your workload or your organization, if you're already working in a cloud space, you can put me one-to-one. If it is something that, okay, you need some personal guidance about your career and all, I'm very open outside the session also. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to you on Slack. I'm already part of the same Slack channel where you guys are. So I'll be more than happy to help everyone in whatever aspect I can do for you guys. So don't hesitate to reach out to me within the session, outside the session. I'll try my best to answer you guys as soon as I get a chance. With that, I'll go ahead and start today's session. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me know once my screen is visible to you guys. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, visible.
Awesome. So we start with our week one, right? In week one, I'm going to keep the things pretty light about it. So don't think that, okay, this is going to be more of theoretical sessions, no demos and all. As we move progress, as we go to week two, we'll start seeing the frequency of demo keep adding. And if you go progress over the upcoming weeks, like somewhere around 4th and 5th, the complexity of demo, the real life use case will also start coming. For first week itself, I just want to keep it very light, help you guys to really understand why you want to do certification, why it is very important for you guys to go for it, and what exactly the certification will look out for you if you're really opting for it, right? So that's why I'm just keeping this session very light and giving you more an introduction about it. So today's agenda is going to be on introduction to cloud. What is exactly cloud computing all about? What exactly is AWS? We'll talk about high level. And before we even move forward to cloud and AWS, I'll talk about high level, how exactly the certification thing works in AWS ecosystem, what exactly the cloud practitioner certification is all about, and who should look forward and what they are going to judge you, or how they are going to assist you in during that certification. With that, let me kickstart today's bootcamp. So as I've already talked about in brief about myself, I'm not going to repeat the same thing. I mean, I don't want to talk about that. So I'll skip this slide. But just for your context, if you have any questions, queries, I'm very active on LinkedIn as well as on Slack channel. Please do reach out to me. One thing I forgot to mention, along with working in Quantify, I'm also represent my company in an AWS Ambassador program. So that's another program for the APN companies to nominate their right employees to be part of it, work closely with the AWS product team, AWS solution architects to help design the architectures, to design the community and share their knowledge. So I'm also part of Ambassador group along with working with Quantify. Today's agenda, as I mentioned briefly, is going to be on 3 lines. Understanding what's exactly AWS certification is all about, understanding what is exactly cloud practitioner, and at the last, which is a big thing for today's agenda, will be introduction to cloud computing in AWS. So we'll go ahead quickly and talk about the first session today, which is what exactly is the cloud certification and why you should get it, right? There's always why is the first thing where you should look forward, right? Generally, I think if you open LinkedIn, I think everyone, I assume, including me, everyone, organizers and all the audience are on LinkedIn actively, right? When you even open LinkedIn, the first thing you will see that feed coming out, I have done this certification. Maybe they would have done across different sections, but I've done certification. One thing I would say in this entire pandemic, the technology has picked up to the next level itself. Whether you talk about the certification, you talk about the community contribution in doing different sessions because of the virtual event. It has gone to the second level. Like no one thought about that is going to explode to that level in a very fruitful thing, I think. So that has worked out pretty well for technology, at least for the cloud technology in this pandemic period, right? If I talk about from 2020, this has worked out pretty well. So now, whenever you look out for any new job or any new thing, right? You look out for a job, you look out for new learning, or you look out for an internal promotion. People always try to see you have AWS certification in it, right? In whichever form you are. Like for example, you are working in big data space, you're working as a system administrator, you're working as a DevOps person, or you're pretty new to the cloud. There are different levels of certifications what we have, which we'll explore in upcoming slides. But people always try to see first thing, hey, you are very expert. Do you have any certification? Because if you go with the entire thing, right, the first thing that goes is your resume or your credentials. So this becomes like more like your credentials. Okay, again, having certification, that doesn't mean, if you don't have certification, that doesn't mean that you don't have the right expertise, right? That's not the case. It can be reverse of it, that you have certification, that also doesn't mean you have the right expertise. It can be both the sides. But at least I would say day 0, before you start anything, people always see for your credentials, right? How you have your colleges, from which college are you, which grades and all. Similar is the case with the certification also, right? That it's become like an entry point for you. These are a couple of stats which we have captured in the market, that most of the people who have done certification, they have got like 80% of the people have gotten higher salary, right? So higher salary in form of, let's say, new opportunity, higher salary within that organization, but they have gotten decent hike around it if they have a right knowledge backed up with certification. Okay. Second is 52% have got the good opportunity in terms of internal promotion or new role within the same company, or have got new opportunity in other organizations. As I mentioned very clearly, right, professional with certified receives an average hike of 40%. I mean, the cloud market has boomed up to a second level of it in this entire pandemic. There are a couple of reasons I can talk to you after the session why this has turned out. I mean, it's not just the certification, but it's the way even the pandemic, I mean, I would say the contribution of pandemic to the cloud computing has been a boom. Many people won't agree, many people will agree. It's a different perspective to look forward, which we can discuss at the last if we have some time. I'll explain you why the pandemic has increased a boom in the complete change in the cloud computing space. And that's why there is a too much amount of requirement in every organization to get a right expert who comes with good knowledge of cloud. And at the last, 82% of the hiring manager agrees that cloud certification makes candidate more attractive, right? As I mentioned, it's not about that you don't have certification, so you're not qualified. For sure, you are qualified around it. But at least when you get on paper, it becomes your credentials that, okay, no, this guys have done a certification, so he might work in it, and let me give him a chance to interview. So that's how this becomes very important. If I see that if you are already working in some IT industry or in any form, in any role, it helps you to get to the next level of promotions or next different role. Or if you are an entry level, it becomes very helpful to get into the industry. So for both kind of audience, I would say this is very important that you should get AWS certified. Moving towards the next, how exactly the AWS certification journey look like, right? So I think I've mentioned about each role has a different perspective, right? So today, this bootcamp will purely focus on the foundational, which is the cloud practitioner part of it. But there are more certifications. I just want you to, I mean, this is a stepping stone journey, the first foundational journey where we'll help you. About this journey, there are other associate, professional, and specialty. If you look into this, the diagram, there are total 11 certifications what AWS has provided across different pillars, right? These certifications are across different roles and responsibility. Like for example, if you're pretty new to the cloud or you are just looking to start your journey, you always start with foundational. Like you always start like ABCD, right? Before you go to schools and other stuff, you start with A, B, and C. So this is like your cloud practitioner. For AWS journey, cloud practitioner is like your alphabets, like your ABCD. Then you go to associate level, which is a complex level, right? Then profession is exactly complex. Like you're certified professionally, you know in and out all the best practices, security, how things work. And then on the right side, you see a specialty track. Specialty track is more for the people who are very specific, right? So I heard like a couple of people were specific to big data. Now they want to understand and explore cloud only that space that, okay, no, I am pretty good with big data. I don't want to leave that domain, but still I want to explore how my domain can integrate with AWS for big data space. Similarly, someone comes from a networking background and they want to do the similar thing. Someone comes from machine learning and they want to do. There you get a specialty track where you understand how exactly your terminology or your ecosystem can blend pretty well with AWS as a cloud and what are the different offerings, different solutions, and different kinds of security best practices AWS provide. There you see the specialty track. So these are the catalog, what we can say, how it works. Generally, you should start with your foundation. Again, there is no, I would say, staircase that's there. I mean, a couple of years back, there used to be that if you want to do like a professional certificate or a specialty, you should have an associate. I think AWS discarded that. That's a wise call. AWS discarded it. So there is no specific step or prerequisite that's required that, okay, no, if you want to do, let's say, for example, solution architect professional, then you have to go with foundation and associate. You can directly do it. But again, it's not a recommend. I mean, it's not like a hard mandate from AWS, but it's highly recommended and suggested by entire community and as well as from AWS. Always start from ground zero and take one step at a time. Like you start from foundational, then go to associate, then go to professional, and then specialty. So you understand the entire concept in and out. So that's what we recommend. But again, there is no hard mandate that you cannot do professional around it. So that's about the different catalog of AWS certification, which AWS have been provided, AWS training and certification team provides. One more certification that that is going to come up in specialty in 2022 is an SAP. So SAP certification is going to add. It's currently in beta stage. It's not. It's available only limited people who are already expert. It's going to be generally available very soon in 2022. How the beta feedback is going to come. So I think we can watch this space by getting from 11x to 12x very soon. So that's about the catalog around it. Moving towards next, we have fair idea about now why certification is important, where exactly the cloud practitioner stands around in that entire catalog, and why it is important for you guys to look forward to that. So first, let's understand AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, right? So who is the right audience, or what exactly AWS Cloud Practitioner look like? So you should have some bit of exposure of 6 months. Again, some people might say that, okay, I am still in college, or some might say I am still coming from an industry where the cloud adoption is not there, and I don't have 6 months of experience. How I can do it? I'm not eligible. Again, this also falls in the same line. They are not a hard mandate. They are the suggestion. So that's how this bootcamp will help you. If you don't have the 6 months of experience or exposure, like you're looking very basic exposure, this bootcamp in upcoming session will help you to get that exposure of different services, different kinds of working on that services with demo, where you will learn and will help you to build that exposure, which will help you to get that certification, right? So that's one. Second is more around understand of IT services, right? So as I mentioned, it's not about just learning the cloud, right? It's also important to apply, or what is the application of that cloud in your specific current role, or how you're looking forward, right? Like, so for example, someone is doing a cloud practitioner, that person able to clear, good. Then he goes to completely into different space where there cannot be apply a cloud, right? Like somewhere like a very different space. So then it's good for you that you got a certification, but you're really not able to apply that knowledge, right? Unless there is a scope of it, then that's good. If not, then there's a problem. So it's understand that, okay, understanding of IT services and their use with AWS is important, right? That you blend both of your knowledge, what you have currently, and how cloud can help you to take it to the next level. Also, cloud practitioner help you to gain more knowledge, right? The best part, which I recommend everyone for the beginner to go with cloud practitioner is that gives you like a glimpse of everything on the AWS console, right? What are the services, right? It's not exact in very depth, which is required for associate, professional, and specialty, but it's a very good starting stone that help people to understand, as I mentioned, the ABCD of AWS, right? Without that, you can directly jump to like associate and professional, but you won't understand the cores of it. And then the last, as I mentioned, with the point 2, it's overlapping, like impact of cloud on your business. It's very important to understand, let's say if you're coming from a financial industry, even you're coming, let's say from healthcare, or you're coming from any retail, it's very important that after learning this entire cloud practitioner, you start thinking from that perspective that if I am working on some use case, how I can take that use case on cloud and solve a bigger problem, not just limited for IT industry. You can also look from your colleges also, right? That how exactly you can take any sorts of, very simple example, any sorts of events, any college events, how we can take it to the larger forum with help of cloud, because everything is currently virtual. So how we can take some virtual engagements with them, some couple of sessions around it, some couple of survey with the help of cloud. And also the cloud adoption and implication, you can apply it at each and every industry or every segment to it. You have to just think aloud after going through the certification, where and how you can adopt cloud. So that's about introduction to cloud practitioner. Let's understand how exactly cloud practitioner will assist you, or what it is required. If I frame this correctly, what is required to get to cloud practitioner, right? Or you get that certification. This bootcamp will help you to prepare for it, but you have to go on your personal expense again to get that certification. We won't give you that certification. You have to go through the AWS training. There's a proper certification exam is there. You have to go through that certification exam. And then you'll get the certification from AWS training team, right? Training and certification team. So generally, we have seen, right? There is an exam guide, what you have. Similar is the concept in AWS also, there is an exam guide. Overall, there are 4 topics or contents what you have. One is domain 1, core cloud concepts, security and compliance, which is domain 2, technology, and billing and price. I will recall my days when I am in college. I used to think what is the big numbers and what is minimum required to pass, and I will focus on that and skip the small section, right? I would highly recommend, please don't do that. This is not just to pass the certification, this is to gain knowledge. So it is very important that you go explore all the certification. Again, I can understand as an individual, some may be good in particular stuff, like some may be good in security, some may be good in pricing and billing. But it is very important that you have an awareness of each and every domain. So don't try to look into that. No, domain 1, 2, and 3 will for sure help me to clear. So I'll go with that and I'll skip domain 4. Each and every segment is very important. They are not, I would say, some or other way, they are also connected. They have a dependency. They are connected to each other. Like if you understand cloud concept, then only you will understand the security and compliance, the entire working of AWS, and then you will optimize the billing part of it, right? So they have a dependency. To don't try to skip any of it. Along with that, AWS also provides an exam guide. So I think what we have learned in the previous slide as well as this slide, this is a summarized version. What I've got from that exam guide itself, official. But again, if someone is really interested and want to see what other details they do have, you can download the exam guide from the link in this presentation, which I'll share post this session, or you can just directly Google AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. On their landing page as well, you will see an exam guide as well as sample questions. We'll understand in upcoming slides how exact the sample questions and all those things look like. But yeah, feel free to go and check out via this link or that link. I mean, it's going to point to the same page only. And this is just if someone wants to more understand that, okay, no, your bootcamp is good. I want to still explore more details around it, then I would say AWS provides free courses on Reskill platform, rebuild or Reskill platform. They have just recently got into it. There is a chat group in it. You can look forward to that chat group, as well as they have skill builder platform. So previously there was certification and training program up to last year. Now they have changed or revamped that platform with the skill builder. In that, they provide the free certification training, I would say the sample questions, as well as a couple of free sessions on cloud practitioner essentials and another guide. So you can look into that also along with the bootcamp. The whole idea is try to gain more and more knowledge from various sources, not just me, from other community, from AWS skill builder platform or Reskill. Try to get more and more knowledge that will help you not only to clear certification, but also over and above for the next level. Okay. And yeah, just want to call out, this will fall, I mean, on a complexity level, this will fall on the foundational course. So it's not very complex if you pay proper attention throughout this bootcamp. So yeah, as I mentioned, this is how the learning path will look like, right? So whatever we are going to go through the content, that will come from the essentials, which will help you to go to the cloud practitioner. And as I mentioned, if you want to go ahead and do it, you can easily go into aws.training, which has been now rebranded as skill builder. So you can go through that, create a login, and even look forward to that. Now let's understand how exactly a person can, how the exam will work, right? That's more important. We understood why you do certification, how it's going to help you, but what AWS is going to ask for it, right? So first, I think there are a couple of things where you and how we can register. Don't worry about it. That I think I'll cover up in the last session again, after the bootcamp, how we can register. A couple of quick things I'll call out from the slide. It's going to charge you $100. $100 USD, right? So you have to look into the conversion at your site around the how exactly this $100 USD will work, and there will be a couple of more dollars under taxes. So if I talk about the India price, somewhere it falls around, I would say 8,000, 8,500 INR. Please look into that, how exactly the exam fees is. It's $100 USD. That's one. Second, they will need some identity document. Now, anything, your driving license, your credit card, your ID. I always prefer to carry driving license with me. Again, there's no mandate. You can even have passport if you don't have driving license. So you need one or two identity document. They generally check one. If you have a photo and address proof in one, you're good to go with that. More important thing. So I've given my exam in both the setup, in this virtual remote setup, as well as within a training center also, right? So I've got an exposure of both the worlds. Honestly, I used to write the training centers. My personal preference has been that, not because of the networking. If you talk about the training center environment, you were allowed to have a pen as well as paper, so you can draw a sketch, you can make some notes, or you can do some calculation within that exam, right? You were not allowed to have a paper. I mean, from outside, it's not an open book, but you can make some more, draw the architecture and get some more idea. But in case of virtual setup, which is like currently has become a mandate because of the COVID or pandemic, you're not allowed to carry anything. Like you can just only carry a bottle of water, which has to be again transparent. You're not allowed to carry any paper, any pencil, any pen. You have to be in a room which is locked. No one should be allowed. So those kinds of things have been there. So please do watch out. Recapping how exactly you can work on the exam thing. Don't worry how to register for the exams, what details you required, forms and all. We'll deal all those complexity at the last. The more important part here is the exam pattern, right? The exam is all about MCQs, multiple choice questions, whether it may be like you have to select 1 out of 2 out of 4, or it may be you select 2 or 3 based on like 6, 7 options. So it's going to be more of selection based itself, right? Multi-choice questions are going to be there. There will be totally 65 questions what you have, which you have to cover in 90 minutes, right? It looks a bit aggressive, but it is not. The questions are not that difficult. If you do prepare well, honestly, you should be able to finish the exams somewhere like around 65 to 70 minutes. Proper review and all might take 10 more minutes, but you should be able to do that if you have prepared it well. And again, the same how you have in any competitive exam, you can offer questions to review at the last, you can flag them, or those kinds of same stuff. The same is the concept here, nothing new. You can review. If you're not sure and you want to go through all the 65 questions and come back later, Those kinds of things you can do. The only thing to remember is just review it. And again, we'll talk about this couple of small tricks, how exactly you should prepare for it, how exactly your entire the decorum should be and that day of certification. We'll talk about in the last session. But just do remember, this is 65 multiple choice questions, nothing like an hands-on lab or an essay kind of thing where you have to write paragraph about any services. It's not that case. So don't worry about that thing. And the passing percentage of the exam is 700. Somewhere around you can think of like 70% from person perspective, which should be easy to get. It's not difficult. And you will get to know whether you have passed or failed after the exam itself. Like once you finish your exam, the last screen will have passed and failed, but the results, like how much you actually score on 1000, irrespective whether you're passed or failed, and in which domain you need to rework, all those details you will get it like in somewhere 48 hours to 72 hours. You'll get an email with a proper scorecard report that out of 4 domains, how exactly you perform in each of the domains, what is your score and how you can improve it. So those details are very, I would say, they have done a decent amount of work and preparation in the background to give you the exhaustive report and help you to scale, right? Not just achieve certification, but to scale your knowledge. Exam content, as I mentioned about, you can have multiple choice questions, select one out of 3 or 4 things. You can have like 2-3 options, right? Multiple choice kinds of stuff. Try to answer the questions as many as you can, even though let's say you're not sure, because there's no panel, there is no negative marking, right? Even though if you leave a question, you're not going to get a grace. If you try to attempt it, you may be a right answer. So try to attempt the answers. And at the last, the review option, just in case, don't try to spend the time on one question itself. You can just flag it and get back later, right? So these are the tricks are very important when you, look out for certification, because you're already in that stress mode when you're giving a certification, right? Even you're giving a foundational, associate, or professional. Exam word is like a different kind of complexity that brings, right? People are scared of it. So try to optimize this a bit, that always try to go through the paper. I'm pretty sure if you cover all the 65 questions, 30 to 35 questions, you will easily able to attempt it in one go. The remaining 50-20 questions will be difficult, which you can flag for later and you can review. So it will help you to do a proper time management. So that's about, we understood. If I quickly recap, we understood what's exactly the AWS certification, why certification is important. We understood the different catalog of AWS certification, followed by we understood the cloud practitioner, how exactly it's going to assist you, what is the curriculum around it, and those kinds of detail. Now we will go to the main agenda for today's session, which is about what is cloud computing. And again, please feel free to post a question in the chat, right? So if I just play this video, so you'll see in simple, I don't want to explain it from a theoretical perspective, but if you see this diagram, you will understand what exactly is the cloud computing, right? Let me play this again. Okay, so if I translate the same GIF or this video, right? You saw there was a server. Here, these are the servers. So cloud doesn't mean that there is no physical server. Okay, there is a physical server which is taken care by AWS, and they provide this offer via cloud, like a virtual setup, which you connect via internet. So in simple definition, if I define cloud computing, it allows you to connect to the virtual resources via internet from anywhere, any part of the world. You can connect to the cloud from your mobile device. You connect to the cloud from your iPad. You connect to your cloud from a desktop. You connect to your cloud from your Mac, any sort of laptop. Whichever device you do, if you have a proper internet connection, you can connect to the cloud and that cloud vendor. So generally, just for now, keeping AWS aside, if you purely focus on the cloud vendor perspective, the type of there are different types of cloud vendor, which you'll understand in the upcoming slides, but irrespective of different types of cloud vendor, they offer their services in a virtual fashion via internet connectivity. So this way, the whole idea, the whole concept is you purely focus on your business application. Like for very simple, you're writing a Java code or you're writing any code in any programming language, right? So it's a pretty common. You're working in a college, or you're studying in college, you're working in any company, you're doing anything. You're working around on computer. And if I tell you that, okay, whatever you need the resources, I mean, any sorts of computer resources, any sorts of compute, right? Any sorts of, let's say, for example, very simple we increase the RAM of our laptop. We increase the hardware disk of the laptop or computer. I'll get you in a couple of clicks, rather than you take that laptop, go to the physical market, attach some hardware and all, right? You can do it easily, but that's a painful thing. And again, you have to invest. You have to pay easily like $5,000 or 5,000 rupees. If I talk about India market for and getting a hard disk of 1 terabyte. So it's not, I mean, easy. You have to pay 5,000, right? But whereas I'll tell you very easily, you can easily apply up to 10 terabytes of memory. You do your work and then you just destroy it. We will only charge you for what you are consuming. For sure, you're going to go do that, right? I mean, if I talk about just we as an individual also, if we think that's an advantage, think of IT industry, right? The big giants, they do this kinds of stuff in and out. Like when we talk about the servers, like if I talk about my experience, when you talk about the servers, there's not like 1 or 2 servers. There are like around 40, 50 servers. Like they have like around 16 GB of core, 1 terabytes of data, which they need over and above based on the different application they are working. It's really a painful job. Whereas I tell you, you only just get your laptop, whatever high-end configuration you need, we'll give you in server within just 5 minutes. And again, not just giving you as ease, but also at a cheaper pay-as-you-go kind of a model, right? So those are the 2 core concepts of cloud. First, it helps you the services. If you have the proper internet connection, that's one. Second, it gives you any IT resources, whether it's database, whether it's compute, whether it's any sorts of application in a pay-as-you-go model. So really now what is left? You have to only focus on your business deliverables. So that's how cloud computing is a boom, that it eases out all the kinds of operational things which are liable on any individual or industry. And if you have a stable, good connection, you can connect to it via pay-as-you-go model. And there are different types of things or offerings which cloud computing provide. One is infrastructure as a service. Second is platform as a service. Third is a software as a service. So there are 3 different models. Now, what exactly are these different types of cloud vendor in the market? What are these 3 models, which we'll learn in upcoming slides? But this is exactly the cloud computing. So this is exactly nutshell, right? So I explained you in detail what exactly is the cloud computing. But if you want to understand the entire phenomena of cloud computing, like the entire ecosystem, so let's start breaking it down, this entire diagram what you have. So the cloud computing, these are the different services cloud computing provide, right? It provides resources, it provides pay-as-you-go model. You can easily require new resources. You can decrease the resources, however, whatever you want to do. So that's one, okay? 2, if you see here, there are deployment models are there. So cloud computing generally are provided into 3 modes: public cloud, hybrid cloud, and a private cloud. Okay. So public cloud is like AWS, which is publicly available or can be publicly been accessed by anyone. If you provide your credit card details and the billing details, it can be used. You don't need to have any sorts of setup. Hybrid is a hybrid. I'll come later. Private is like specifically, right? There are a couple of very sensitive workloads are there, which you want to get with the cloud computing, but you want a very specific use case, right? That this resources should be used by me, my company, not just the compute, include the networking node. So no one outside to the cloud, I mean, no one outside to my organization or to my team should be able to access. That is called as private cloud, right? Now don't get confused. In case of public cloud also, there are a couple of things which makes the things as private, right? Privately for your organization and all. But they are, again, private to you, but on a public infrastructure. This is exactly completely isolated, right? So if I say, let's say organization A, which will have completely different thing, complete different network, compute and everything, like completely isolated kind of thing. Like you can think of like your own individual department in a college, right? Which is completely different to comm science, completely different to electronics. So that kinds of stuff. And hybrid is like a mix. Like you can get a best of public, your best of private, you can get both. And as per your business application, you can have a mix of both. So that's about the deployment model. And then comes a service model about it, right? With the cloud computing, which we understood in the previous example also. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Just remember these 3 things. We'll understand an example, how exactly it works and in what sense. For now, in simplifying this, all the 3 terms, it is a kind of a service model that help you in adoption of the cloud, right? Based on the maturity, how mature organization you are, like from startup to mid-scale, to an enterprise, or to college, how good are you in terms of handling and customizing your need? Based on that, you can select the stuff, right? We'll understand how the example for across three. But this is how the cloud computing. Cloud computing provides all different services which are listed here. It provides in a 3 different form, and these are the service models which are available. So this exact comes around the cloud service model, which is very important to learn, right? I mean, generally cloud models, deployment models, and more from a knowledge perspective, but service model is very important to learn because that's how it will even help you to select the different services. When you're working on AWS, there are different services provided for same use case. So now which service to select for what, this particular model will also help you around that. So first, if I talk about very simple is the on-site. On-site, you can think of on-prem. Now, many people will say, I don't have an experience, I'm pretty new. Like just for the guys who are very new to the cloud, and this is for the first session, just think of your laptop or your mobile. You're responsible fully to connect that mobile with internet, to charge that mobile, to take care of anything which comes like a failure or any sorts of damages and all. Even the maintenance like scratch guards and that, you're fully responsible for it. Similarly, if we talk about for the guys have some idea about industry, the on-prem setup, like your desktop in your company. It's not you are doing it, but someone in your company is doing, right? Taking care of everything. Software is updated, apply new patch, apply network, apply security, like the same kind of incident what we had, like ensuring that firewall rules and all those proper things have been that there is no security bridge and everything in there, right? So end-to-end taking care of it. But there is one person or a team, small team, who's fully responsible for it. That's called as on-prem. Now, in that case, there is all responsibility on you. Now, if you go towards right side of it, the second column, which is infrastructure as a service, you will see that there are a couple of sections which are in orange. That means this responsibility which you were doing on-prem now has been taken care by the cloud vendor. So now cloud vendor is responsible for doing virtualization, server, actual physical server maintenance, the actual physical storage like this, the hard disk what we have, and the networking connecting to the LANs and all. They will be taking care of it. You just have to connect the network to your laptop, and with your laptop or any device, you just have the proper internet connection and you can connect to the cloud. Rest, the below hardware section will be taken care of the cloud, right? 50% of your workload get easily eased out, and you can only focus on selecting the right OS, right middleware, the runtime like Python, Java, any programming language, the data and the application. That comes in infrastructure as a service, right? The one thing you also have to understand is as you grow from left to right, your responsibility decreases. Also the scope of customization, right? Like for an example, let's say, as I mentioned, like if you go and check the very basic, here you can select your own OS. But if you go as a platform as a service, software as a service, the OS is fixed by the service provider. You cannot customize it, right? Certain time, there are requirements that you need a very specific version of operating system, which you can only do in infrastructure as a code. So that's exactly what I was saying, right? Now, if you are an early stage startup or a very new, or let's say you are coming as from a college background, you will only focus my application. Now you're building a website, you're building any, let's say, chat group or any sorts of R&D work. Doesn't matter, right? For you, it's the more important thing is what problem statement I'm solving. I have to focus on that. So there you can go like a software as a service. Platform as a service is more important, like a mid-scale, where they are more worried about the data and application also, right? Now, application patch data is very sensitive for them. They don't want to be sure the data doesn't get compromised. The application, compromised in the sense of that no one outside to them should be able to access. They can have more restrictions. So they can go platform as a service. That provides some customization. Infrastructure as a service gives them more kinds of customization. But again, the responsibility increases as you go from right to left, but the customization decreases, right? If you go from left to right. So do remember those kinds of details. It will for sure help you there. So these are the different service models that are available based on the different industry which you are in, industry as well as the kind of maturity of the organization which you are into in this one. That will help you to take care of that. Now, quickly covering the cloud deployment models, right? So public cloud, as I mentioned, things like AWS, which is publicly available. Anyone from the world can access this if you have the billing permission. You can access it. You can give the access to your team and everyone. Then there is a private cloud, which is specifically designed, specifically built for your own organization needs or your own team needs. No one can access it, the entire cloud, if you don't want them. The hybrid, you can think of the blend mix of the public and the private. Like it's a public cloud plus private cloud is a mixed, is called as a hybrid, right? If you need the best of the both the worlds. And then community cloud is like somewhere like you can think of like an open source, which has been built, which is coming up. So that kind of thing is called as a community. This entire bootcamp or the market is very prominent for the public cloud, where people wants to minimize the operational part of it, purely focus the best security thing. I mean, the best functionality features and the security part of it. So most of the thing, the entire bootcamp will be based on AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is a part of the public cloud. So do remember that. So if you remember 2 slides back, we talk about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. It's also very important that now we try to map it with AWS service. Again, don't worry about, these are just the name, so you can recall when we start talking about it, right? So in simple, I think we have already understood this point from the previous slide, but if I just map with the service, infrastructure as a service simple means like an EC2, any VM. VM allows you to select the operating system. VM allows you to do anything, any customization which you want to do. So that can be the best example of infrastructure as a service there. When you talk about platform as a service, that means that the underlying you can do something like you have Lambda, right? Lambda has been there, or Beanstalk has been there. So Beanstalk is like you get the different runtime. You can select like I need Java, I need Python, I need .NET. That environment you can set. You can set the database and application, but you don't get the functionality to play around with the operating system and underlying stuff. So that's about the platform as a service. And the last one is a software as a service. So in case of software as a service, it's like completely pay as you go. Like very simple of it, you can think of Slack, right? We are also using Slack. Now, what is Slack? Actually, do you really worry about what kind of server are they using in the backend or how they are scaling? Like today, we only have like 30, 40 people. Let's say if I talk about 30 lakhs of people, will they really, we have to really worry about it? No, right? We just pay for the commercial, like the license part of it, and we are good. Slack will take care of it. So that's called as software as a service. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Please do remember that this is a very core fundamental thing which will help you any certification or when you're working in the industry also. So that's about stuff. Moving towards the comparison, right? Now, someone might ask me in this group that, okay, hey, why I need to go to cloud? I mean, I understand you're giving me pay-as-you-go model, you're giving me all the resources and all. What additional you give me, right? So if we just zoom in a bit, the same thing what we have studied. So first column talks about the different features what we have. And if you compare those features across on-prem and the cloud, you will really understand that cloud really helps you to focus on your business application and minimize the entire operational networking, compute, fine-tuning, and those kinds of stuff, right? Not completely, I would say, erased it. I've used the word minimize it. So do remember that. It doesn't mean that it completely neglects it, right? Or removes it. Because as we studied in infrastructure as a service, you're still responsible for patching your operating system. So based on the service model also, it plays an important role. What kind of responsibility from this particular features will still apply you? Security. I would say security, here it's mentioned service provider. Again, I'll recap that security is a shared responsibility. Service provider will ensure, let's say for a very simple of it, you have a laptop. So laptop security, you can take it. But let's say which the internet which you connect or the data transfer which you are doing, right? That you cannot do it. Someone else has to do it, right? Similar is the kind of an example. If you reverse that persona in cloud, the physical data, or the physical laptop or the physical server, which is there in AWS data center, that AWS will take care with having proper kind of security guards, proper kinds of alarms, monitorings, and everything, right? So physical alarms I'm talking about, security alarms and all. But let's say talk about you're doing a data transfer. Now you upload a data and you allow everyone in the world to open that. I mean, everyone to access it. However, AWS tries it, but you are responsible for ensuring that data which you're uploading to AWS you are responsible for securing it. AWS just provides a major. So that's why it's a very shared responsibility. It's a very important topic which you will learn in upcoming slide. Sorry, upcoming sessions. In on-prem, it's a simple. You're fully responsible for everything. In simple, if I talk about, you're fully responsible for all the features. But in cloud, 50% things get shared with the cloud service provider, right? Customization. Customization is difficult, and in cloud, it's simple. Very simple. You want to add one more hardware to your laptop. It's going to be difficult, right? And difficult in the sense you have to take your hardware, purchase it, add it, pay, another stuff. Whereas in the cloud, it's just a few clicks. We'll understand in a compute session, literally in like 3 or 4 clicks, you can easily add any additional volume to your server. Will just take like 5 to 10 minutes and you're good to go. Updates. Organization has a choice. So now here exactly was talking about the customization part. So update comes into customization. Now, if you see any banking, any other industry, they have a specific, they use specific versions of OS, right? The old maybe Windows and specific version of OS, which maybe we won't be using, they might be outdated, but still they use because their application supports that. In case of cloud, you have, I mean, based on the kind of service model you are into, infrastructure to platform as a service to software as a service, it depends how exactly you can do it, but still there is no choice, even in infrastructure as a service to a certain extent. Now, for an example, you cannot come up and request for an EC2 instance which works on Windows XP on the cloud, but you can easily do it in on-prem, right? Even though there is an end of support, Microsoft won't support it, but you can request that, okay, hey, can you set up an Windows XP on my machine because I want to test something. But in cloud, they only use the updated latest version of OS, which is supported. So it can be like latest to be Windows 10 or Windows 12. That's the latest what you can talk about, right? For an example, or Linux, you can talk about. So from a given list, you can choose anyone for infrastructure as a service, but again, that list is handled by the cloud. So the choice really depends on it. Ownership, you have a complete ownership. You only have, in case of cloud, you only have an ownership for the data. You don't have the complete ownership around it. Like complete ownership in case of the physical data, physical compute, you don't have it. You only have the virtual thing, which is running about the virtualization part of it. You only have that ownership on that. Audit perspective, it is very difficult because you need to maintain, right? The audit is like you first need to have the proper inventory, the different kinds of stuff. In cloud, it is very simple because 50% of the things are already been shared by the cloud. And there are other things are available like CloudWatch. Other services are available by AWS, which makes it much more simpler. Connectivity, I think we would have faced it in our life for sure. Either the connectivity at home, at college, at work. It is difficult, like the internet bandwidth fluctuate, or it's going on and off, or it's not available. Sorry. It's not available. So that makes it very challengeable. But in cloud, it's very easy that AWS has a very strong, sustained network bandwidth at the backend that makes it very easy to access the data from anywhere, any part of the world, if you have the stable connected in your laptop or the device which you're accessing. Affordability, when it comes to on-prem, like on-prem is not just like a simple, it's in lakhs to crores based on the kind of application you're doing. So no startup can afford it, right? One of the things which we see, every new startup always starts from the cloud, whichever space it is. It is in healthcare, it is in AI, it is any part of the domain. It will always choose cloud as a first to start because they cannot afford that capex, that early investment. And in cloud, you get a pay-as-you-go. So once the business starts, then they can think about it and then they get planned, right? So you can take up any startup. Always they will start with the cloud as the first thing. Now, the cloud selection differs based on your experience and expertise, but they will start with the cloud. Now, let's understand the quick 6 advantages, right? That what is an advantage of the cloud computing? So first is a traditional capital expenses. So as I mentioned, now you want to get even a small hard disk of 1 terabyte for your laptop, you have to pay like around 5,000 to 7,000 based on the company in India itself, right? Same would be some currency at your end also, but you have to pay a cost for it in case of, and that's a one-time investment. But again, if you don't need it tomorrow, if you want to change or increase or decrease, you have to pay the again cost. In case of cloud, that gets easily erased. You get a customization, you can easily scale up, scale down, and only pay for what have you used. Benefits of massive economics of scaling. of scale. So let's say today it's the simple of it, right? So you would have seen this e-commerce website like Amazon, or if I talk about Flipkart or any other stuff, right? Or even you talk about WhatsApp. Can we predict in WhatsApp, right, that how many people will be using actively? Millions, billions, it's across the globe. So it's very difficult to have that scaling available. Like to support billions of users, you will need like 1,000, 10,000 or around lakhs of servers. So it's a massive scale game. Which becomes very difficult when you do on-prem. You need hardware, you need so many larger team to operationalize and all. With help of cloud, for sure you need that team, but not that kind of investment which you need on-prem. And as well as if you see the point 3, when it comes to the capacity, if I tell you that this 1 billion is going to increase to 100 billion, however good you are, whatever you, I mean, how much smart team you have, expert team you have, you're going to really worry. It's a very big number, very long-term investment you need to do. So not only just supporting at that moment, but also getting those things and plugging and playing around it, right? Whereas if I talk about the cloud, it becomes very simple. If you have the right DevOps tool, right DevOps, right services, it's just a matter of a couple of hours and you can easily get around it. And again, pay as you go model. So you don't have to worry about the cost and other things also. So which help you, if I talk about point 2 and 3 of the cloud, it help you to get the increased speed and agility. So you only focus on your business application rather than worrying about the upfront cost, the maintenance, and the wiring part of it. Point 5th is stop spending money running and maintaining a data center. So now when you talk about data centers, right, it's not just the getting the technology. You also have to spend money on protecting that environment in terms of human resource, in terms of technology, like fire alarms, good internet, good cooling system. Those are the overhead money, right? Outside the servers and the hard disk and the other part of it. So that's an advantage what you can get. And at the last, in case of cloud, as I mentioned, now let's say if I want to start my own startup and I want to go globally across, it's going to take me max 1 hour. If I know how to use the cloud, within 1 hour, I can launch an application that can be accessed throughout the world. Any part of the world you're sitting around, whether it's you're in the United States or you're in Canada, you are in London or you're in Netherlands, you can access it from anywhere. So it just takes like a couple of hours and you're good to go. Whereas in case of on-prem, you need to have an actual physical data centers across each of the space or the remote location so people can access it. That's a very big advantage. And that's why you would see, as I mentioned in the initial starting also, pandemic has really boosted the cloud based industry is because of this reason. When pandemic hit into it, most of the people started working remote. I've seen like at least handful of organizations where the biggest problem for them was how I can provide my resources to my folks who are working from home. Previously, they were working from same space, like same office, so they can easily access it. But now, since they are working from home, working from a different location, how I can do it? The simple answer was, can we move this application to the cloud? And can we use cloud computing advantage so they can remote from access? And that's how this leads the entire change in IT industry, like a new revolutionary that comes into it, that most of the people now always think to build an application on the cloud. They never know. There might be another new wave come up or something new come up. Again, we have to give in work from home to our employees and we don't want to hamper our productivity. Literally, there are a couple of organizations where there, I've spoken to them for initial 3 to 4 months when the pandemic hit the wave 1. 3 to 4 months, their employees have to take the risk of their life to go to office because they can't provide that application access from their home network. So that's how it's really being a boom for the cloud computing for the IT industry when it comes to around handling multiple scenarios and giving the ease and to work from any part of the world. So that's why one of the change you will see, the term like digital transformation, cloud-based revolutionary change are very common nowadays in market because of the pandemic and lockdowns and other effects. So that's about the cloud computing part of it. I will quickly jump onto the AWS side of it now. This is a very important section. Again, please feel free to post a question. I don't see any questions coming out in the chat, so don't hesitate. Please feel free to post a question if you have any. So first of all, what is introduction of, what is AWS? So it's an unit within Amazon, right? So technically Amazon, it's a big organization. AWS is one of its another business unit. Amazon also has an e-commerce, right? So they have Amazon.in, they have Amazon.com. So similarly, AWS Web Service is their cloud business unit, where they provide different cloud services within that unit. In this, we'll specifically focusing about the AWS, which is the Amazon Web Service. So Amazon Web Service is the part of the public cloud, as I mentioned in the three different models, on a broader level: public, private, and hybrid. See a question here. So yeah, we see a public. Just give me a minute. So yeah, when it comes to AWS, it falls into the public thing, which is provides like offering like compute, database, storage, and application and those kinds of stuff, like all the IT resources in a pay-as-you-go model at a cheaper rate. So it helps you to only focus on the business application. That's a fundamental of public cloud, what we learned about it, right? That's not something new. AWS also follows the public segment, so they provide the same thing. The important thing to understand in this slide is the global infrastructure, right? How exactly AWS help you to go to global in a couple of hours. So first, AWS provides different regions. Like in simple, different regions can be different segments. Like you have a different segments in your organization, you have a different departments in your college. So it's a different segments. Like you have US East, which is US means North, United States. EU means Europe. AP means Asia Pacific, which is Mumbai, AP South. So they, based on a different geographical segment in the part of the world, they have a region. One region to second region is completely independent and isolated. Like for an example, if something goes wrong in North Virginia, which is in United States, it won't have any sort of effect to Europe, to India, or to, let's say, Dubai or any part of the world. So they are completely isolated and completely different. Again, they are connected via internet bandwidth, a strong bandwidth. So just in case if you want to build a cross region, like you have two audience, which is one is working, let's say, from Asia Pacific, one is working from United States. So you can connect, you can build and deploy the application in both the regions connected via internet, but from a functioning perspective, they're completely different. So do remember that a region is a physical location in the world and it is completely isolated and independent. Within region, you will see a sub-network, which is called as each region consists of two or more availability zones. Sub-network help you to get higher availability. So each region, if you take, like you have a region, within region, you have 3 availability zones, 2 or 3 or more. That is a sub-network. And each availability zone, in simple words, you can think of as like a data center. Like you have a data center, which is some miles away. Let's say, for example, you have one data center, let's say at 0 miles. The second data center for sure will have bare minimum like around 15 to 20 miles. Because to ensure if something goes wrong geographically or natural way, power cutoff, floods, earthquake, still that region function to provide the service. So that's why it's like a redundant data center what you have in a region. So each region bare minimum will have 2 or more based on how many people are interactive or how interactive that region is. So that's about the availability zone. Next, you will see, I mean, we'll go in very detail how exactly, how many different regions, availability zones are there. But do remember, this is very common, fundamental or a common terminology, which comes when you're giving a certification, when you're working in any, or when you're working in any industry, when you're designing any solution. First, you need to select the right region. 2, you need to make it more highly available. I mean, not only just region, cross region, like in multiple regions. You also need to make it multiple high availability, like multiple data centers wise also. So if something goes wrong in one data center, you're still functioning around it, right? And as well as you have a higher bandwidth, which we saw that AWS provides a very high bandwidth. So in case if you want to connect between 2 availability zones or 2 regions, you don't have to worry about it. And local zones are the extent region close to your end user. So it's in certain time, when AWS doesn't have a kind of a region but if still there are people available, so that's a local zone via which they can extend a region close to the end user. So that's the geographical map. This is what we will learn in upcoming slide also, but do remember regions, availability zones, local zones. So this is how exactly the AWS currently works. You don't need to worry about the numbers and remember all those things, but do remember there are 26 regions are there, which has multiple availability zones, and there are many more are still coming into it, right? So if you see, there are 8 more regions are still going to come up, which will be across Australia, Canada, India. There are 8 new regions that is going to come up in 2022 or 2023. 24 more availability zones are going to be there. And there are different kinds of other geographical things available. But the only 2 things what you have to remember for cloud practitioner is the region. It's completely geographical location, independent, completely different from each other. Second is availability zone, which is within the region, different data centers. This is the common thing. People always get confused when they start working on the AWS or the cloud. So do remember this thing. And then the last thing is the point of presence. Point of presence is like the cache. Now, when you play anything on YouTube, so technically, it's not always going to their US server and getting that video from it, right? It gets from the local cache. So let's say you're playing any sort of song or any sort of video. Let's say, or you're going to watch this video once it gets records and upload into YouTube. It's going to be served from your near Bangladesh server itself, or maybe from India server itself. It's not going to every time go to US, right? The latency or the response time will get affected highly if every time it goes to US and get back. So that caching is called as point of presence, or CDN which like CloudFront and all they use around that term, which we'll learn in the upcoming slides. So this is how the things looks like. There is a region, there is an availability zone, and there is edge location. So edge location is exactly that point of thing what we talk about, right? So this is how regions look like. Within region, you have availability zone, right? Availability zone is like you have different data centers in it. Each availability zone is completely different of each other. Okay, so do remember this graph that will help you to understand these 3 different points. Mostly you have to, edge location is for sure important, but these 2 are the superintending region and availability zone. Each region is a geographical region made of 2 or more availability zone, and they're completely independent of each other. Availability zone is within a region, like 2 or more availability zone within a region, and provide a low latency communication around it. So that's about the geographical infrastructure map. The important thing that comes up for everyone's mind, why do we have so many regions? Why it is very important to select a region, right? As I mentioned, availability, we understand that, okay, you need to have high availability, or you want to build something which is available in case of failure. We need that. But why do we need to select the right region or this stuff? So there are 4 points: compliances, proximity, service availability, pricing. I would say first 2 points are very important. 3rd and 4th are there, but it's not that going to be affected. But first 2 points are very important. So there are certain countries in which it is very important that the data which get generated should be stored in that country itself. If I talk about United States, Canada, UK, there are certain compliances are there that the data which get generated in United States should stay in United States. Even though from wherever you're working, whichever the organization you're part of, the data cannot leave out of United States. And by chance, if that moves out of United States, that is called as data bridge, right? Security bridge, what we call it now. In that case, it is very important when you're working with such kinds of setup, you always deploy the application in the United States regions. There are 4 regions available. You deploy it within that regions itself. Second is a proximity. Always do remember, the proximity is very important from your customer experience perspective. Let's say your customers, you know pretty well the kind of application what you're building will only address United States and Canada, let's say North America part of it. Then you deploy in any of the regions which are close to their presence. The people who are going to work in or access that application in and out, not the people who are going to develop. You're going to develop it one time and deploy. Then those are the people who are going to use it. So proximity to your customer, not to the developer. Third, availability of service. So sometimes it happens when a new service comes, right? AWS always make it generally available in a couple of regions. I know as in the last few days, they have tried to make it more globally available across all the regions. But initially, I think there are still a couple of services which are available specific in a given region itself. And if you still want to access that service, for sure, there is no other option. You have to go to that region and access it, right? So that's the third point. And pricing. Pricing is just few cents, like I would say, like very small amount difference, like a couple of rupees, it will be here and there difference. So pricing is not at all a thing, but first 2 points are very important, followed by third, and then you have the last is the cost. So these are the 4 things which help you to select which AWS region you want to select and why so. When it comes to way to interact with AWS, there are 3 ways. All the 3 ways we are going to go through in each of our different sessions. AWS console, the GUI based. Second is the command line interface, like from command line, what you can do. Third is the SDK. Anyone who comes from a programming background, if they want to use like Python, .NET, Go, Java, then you can use, or Node.js, then you can use this software development kit based. So it provides all the 3 mediums from whichever background you are. Let's say even you're not from a technology background, still you can use AWS console. If you come from a hardcore Unix background, then you can use CLI. If you come from a programming background, you can use SDKs. So there are 3 ways you can access it. Pricing, there are multiple different models based on the services you select, right? So first, as I mentioned, pay generally, the fundamental remains the same. Pay as you go model, irrespective you follow any pricing model, but pay as you go is the thumb rule of when it comes to the pricing of AWS. Then on top of it, what kind of service are you using? It depends. Like say if you talk about compute, it will be per second, hour per second. Like let's say if you're launching a server, how many seconds are you using? You're using 60 seconds, 6,000 seconds, whatever numbers you're using. Based on that seconds, you have to pay. And again, the cost will vary based on the type of instance you're using. Like the type is a compute and the memory. If you're using high end, cost will be higher. If you're using the very starting like T2 micro or T2 nano, the cost will be less. So that's compute. Storage. The storage, what kind of data you're going to store in that, right? So generally, if you see there are certain storage costs in there, even in Google Drive, or if you talk about iCloud and those kinds of stuff, what data you store, you have to pay the price for the data on per GB level. And again, the best part of AWS is as the storage increase, the price decreases, right? That's a reverse of it. It's not increase, it starts decreasing on the GB level. So let's say if you store terabytes of data, the price on the GB per GB level decreases what you will be paying only for storing 1 GB of data. So that's the best part of it. And data transfer. In case of AWS, there is no inbound cost. So there are 2 types of traffics are there. Incoming, outgoing. Incoming, inbound, outgoing, outbound. So any traffic which is moving within AWS is 0. You don't have to pay anything. Any traffic which is leaving from AWS, you have to pay the price, right? So do ensure that kind of detail that any traffic which is going out, you have to pay for it. So when you are doing solution after this bootcamp, when you're working on an actual use case, always try to minimize any outgoing traffic. Always design the solution which allows you to be within inbound, outbound, avoid it. And if you have to use the outbound, in some cases you are forced to, you have to use it based on the application, then the charges are per GB. Like whatever the data get transferred on per GB level, the charges are there. Again, the charges are not higher, but data transfer is a very extensive, it becomes very expensive over a period. So always try to design the solution which minimize the outbound. High levelly, these are the different services which we will be talking about in upcoming sessions also. I'll try to recap. I'll try to cover up around it, right? So there are different services across different catalogs are available. Whether you come from like a database background, whether you come from big data, machine learning, DevOps, software development background, or AI ML, across your use case, across the type of business application, AWS do provide different services and different format. Like we understood infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. On those 3 service model, there are different services available. It's very important. 3 things which I generally do when I work on solutioning any problem statement. What type of solution is? It's machine learning. It comes from software. It comes from database. So first, I always try to categorize the services across the need of that application. 2, I categorize it based on the service model, whether I need to go infrastructure service, platform, and the kind of software as a service. Then the third, I look into the pricing and the features and functionality perspective, right? That simplifies if you go in these 3 steps, most of the time, You don't even need the fourth step, which is doing an one-to-one comparison. By now, you would have already eliminated and you will have your answer that which service you want to go, right? So that's how how it generally works. And again, when we start working in an actual use case and deep down in each of the services, we will learn how exactly I'm doing this calculation. And this again, this is because of the over couple of years of experience. As you start working in this particular space, you will also start coming with your own tricks, own way of selecting your services. But generally, this is how I take care of in this 3 model. And again, at the backbone, in the bottom, you see regions, availability zones, and edge location, which is the backbone on which this all different services works around it, right? So this is a high level glimpse of it. If I try to quickly narrow down the AWS services, I won't go much in detail about these services because that's what the whole about the bootcamp is. We'll try to quickly understand the different service category. So if you want only just the compute, like just only the compute capacity, like the VM servers, there are like 3 or 4 different options available, right from serverless to serverless containers to kind of EC2. There are multiple options available on that side. Same if you see the second, the storage, you'll see there are multiple storage available, like object-based storage, like volume-based server storage, or if you need any archival. There are different mediums and all available. Same goes for networking also. This networking, if you remember, I spoke about in the starting, that in public cloud also you can design your own private stuff, which is limited to your organization or to your team or to your customer. So these are those services and means and mediums, along which, I mean, networking and security, which we'll see in the next slide, via which you can design your own private thing on the public infrastructure. So networking and content delivery, database, SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, those kinds of different databases you can also get on AWS, what you can generally do in on-prem side of it. Analytics, if you want to work around, I mean, if you come from a very data science or big data kind of thing, you will always use things like big data, map reduce, or you need a warehouse, right? Those are the very common term for the people comes from the background. In simple, like for the people who comes from a college perspective and very new, like I give you a complete data and you want to extract different design patterns, different meanings from the data. In simple way, that is you do and achieve in analytics. Like given us entire terabytes or entire larger set of data, you try to define the different patterns and events from it. Very important, cost management. Whatever kind of use you have to do a proper cost management. Security of the data, right? Security of the data of your cloud. So ensure it doesn't get breached, it doesn't get hacked. So those are the 2 things you need to take care. Migration, if you're moving from one cloud to AWS or from on-prem to this, what are the different migration services available? Security, identity, and compliance. I think, as I mentioned, this is a very core cost, security, and the networking part. This is the very core, whatever way you are accessing cloud, whether you're learning as doing as machine learning, as a big data, as a fresher. These 3 things are the core foundational of any of your workload. And we'll also focus on that. Last, the free tier, right? So for now, for this session, we are fine. As I mentioned, we haven't done any sorts of demos, but in upcoming sessions, we will be doing more of demos. And also I'll try to give some more problem statement, which you can do offline at your ease. In order to do that offline, you need to have an AWS account. AWS provides a free tier, which is 1 year free they provides to their new customers. And they have to provide like a couple of free trials are there, 12 months free and always free. So there are 3 different ways services have been provided. So please do ensure you spin up the free tiers account if you don't have any AWS account. That's 1. 2, do ensure whatever kind of workload you're doing, right? As a part of the lab, as a part of your assessment, or you're trying to explore on your own, please stop these services after you're using it, right? Don't keep it on. Otherwise, you have to pay the charge for it. And please secure the things. Like if time permits, I'll show you how to secure your services with things like MFA and all in the next session itself. So you can go ahead, freely launch your free tier architecture, free tier account and secure it so that you can use it as your own sandbox environment to play around with. For the people who already have AWS account, maybe from your college, maybe from your industry, from your company, and you can do R&D on top of it, then you don't need to spin up a free tier. You can leverage that only. It's not going to cost. The demo, what we will be doing, are going to be very bare minimum in the smallest and I try to squeeze it in free tier itself. So don't worry about it. If you have an account, leverage that. If you don't, then please go and spin up. So you will do more hands-on also. So that's all what I have from today's session, which was, if I recap quickly, we understand about why it is important to go certification, talking about AWS certification strategy, then the cloud practitioner, introduction to cloud computing and AWS. That's all what we learned from today's session. I'll take a pause here. You guys, if you have any questions and queries, the floor is open. Please go ahead and post your questions, unmute and post, unmute yourself and ask a question, or post in the chat. I'll be happy to answer all of them.
Account activation guide, please. I think many of we get email AWS email, and they want to know how to.
Sorry, I think your voice is a bit low, at least at my end. Please, will you pardon?
Many of people to get the email, and then they thought how to activate the AWS account. So please clarify it so they can understand.
Oh, got it. Okay, so no worries. I think that's fine. Just in case, if you guys don't know how to activate the account, right? Don't panic about it. I will walk you through in the next sessions where I will activate the account and I'll help you out. So just in case if you're very new, don't worry about it. We'll take in the upcoming slides.
I think hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I'm sorry for the inconveniences. I think we have covered all the questions, and if anyone still have any more questions, you can put it in your chat box, or you can unmute yourself.
Or also, just in case if you need some time to digest the information, you can also put it on the slide. That is also fine.
Hello, I have a question.
Hello.
Are you listening me?
Your voice is a bit low, please.
Okay, is it louder now?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. What will happen after ending the 12-month free tier of AWS account? Can I use any, will I get any free resource or free instances after that?
That's a very good question. Okay, so after free tiers, so there are high level, if we go to that slide, there are a couple of services which are available. I mean, irrespective of free tier, there are available as a free limits, which you can access even after first year itself also, right? Like if I talk about Lambda, which is serverless, there are a couple of invocations are freely available on monthly basis. But like if I talk about T2 Micro, which is a EC2 VM machine, which is only available for 1 year for free tier. After that, they will charging you, right? So what you can do is you can be very optimal with your use case for what are you using, and you can use the best way of taking care of that, right?
Okay, I got my answer.
Yeah,
I got my answer. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions?
Yes, I have another one. For AWS Cloud Practitioner, how much networking knowledge I should learn for?
I would say it's very minimum. I'll cover all those things within the bootcamp. So if you go through all the contents of bootcamp, right, all the different sessions, you should be fine with it. You did not need to be like very experts in it, right? There are a couple of terms which I'll try to break it down and make it very easy to remember. Outside that, you should be fine. You don't need like very hardcore knowledge of networking.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the session. I will follow your session continuously.
Sure. Any other questions?
I want to ask another question. that
No,
is the.
I mean, please feel free. If you have any
Yes.
questions, also, you can post. Or anyone else, if you have questions, please post on the chat, or yeah, you can unmute and ask me.
How much? I found that Azure only accept one credit card once with on account Azure, but can I use one credit card in multiple AWS account?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, you can. But the idea I will honestly suggest is that's not the right pattern you should use, right? So in AWS itself, like, I mean, that's an advanced concept which we can talk about in upcoming slides. You can have like a parent-child account. Like,
then how I got the free tier of practicing?
Yeah, exactly. So how we can get the free tier, right? So if you already have one account, which you, let's say, have spin up a couple of years back, right? Then in that case, the new account which you will spin up will not fall under free tier. But just let's say you are going to spin up 2 accounts now, then both you'll get a free tier. So don't worry about that.
I was a bit confused actually.
So let's say for an example, you have launched an AWS account, let's say in January 2021. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that account will already be done with the free tier because we are in 2022. 1 year is completed.
Yes.
So now if you launch another child account within that same AWS account, right?
Yeah.
Then you won't get the free tier for that new account because of the way you will have the billing. The billing will be on the main account.
Main account.
Which is you launched last year.
Yes.
But let's say if you're spinning up the accounts now in 2022, or you have or if you haven't completed the 1 year of free tier, then you can spin up a new account and you can have that. I mean, you can leverage the free tier.
A whole new account, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So this way you don't have to manage the credit cards in 2 accounts, right? The credit card you can apply only on the one master account, which will be applied in all the accounts. So generally, let's say for an example, how it works in industry, right? Now I've seen customers which have 100 accounts. Now they cannot go and apply the credit cards in all the accounts, right? It is very difficult. So what they do is they apply the credit card in the main master account and connect all the child accounts to that master account. That is called as organization unit.
Oh, okay. Thank you. But if the child account will not get the free tier.
No, if the OU, I mean, if the free tiers, I mean, let me also have a look around it. I'll get back to you in the next session. But mostly the child account, if the OU haven't exhausted the free tier, I think you should be able to get that into child account. And again,
now it's clear to me. If I have any limit or there's some space on master account, then I'll get that in free child account also.
Correct.
But if it is over, then I'll not get it.
Correct. And also I'll internally also check with AWS on that perspective. Okay. And I'll get back to you in the next session, next week.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think there's one more question I can see in the chat.
That was me. That was me. So.
Okay. No, I think someone has checked for the exam that if I fail to pass, I have to pay $100 again to participate in a. Yes. So that's a very good question. Each attempt of the certification is $100. So based on the number, so that simple means if you're unable to clear in the first attempt, you have to pay the $100 for the second attempt.
How to get the exam voucher?
Sorry, how to
get the exam voucher so we can get 50% off, I think.
Okay, so when it comes to the 50% off, right? So first is when it comes to 50% off, there are couple of, I mean, there are some few times I've seen that promotion takes place from AWS, from training and certification team when they provide, right? That certification also, I mean, those promotions are also as a part of different sessions they do take care. In general, you have to pay $100 for your first certification. Like for an example, let's say now I have already achieved different certifications. So if I want to recertify it or if I want to give any other certification, then I get 50% off because of my previous certification, which I had. So that's for sure applicable throughout the year. any time of the year, right? So even though if I've done like 3 years back, still I can do that 50% on my new certification. But if you're giving the certification for the very first time, then either you get some promotional events from AWS, you can get that 50% off. Couple of times even 100% off they give it based on what kind of that event is. But in general, you have to pay $100.
I have the question that previous guy asked. So OU unit, you talk about the OU unit, the mass.
I think if I understand your question correctly.
Sorry, please, my sister, sorry. OU unit, master and child relationship you talk about. So only one account of the 100 account will get free tier, and the remaining 99 will not get the free tier. Is that the one you said?
So basically, yes. So I think when it comes to this OU relationship with free tier, let me check with AWS also how it generally works in the OU level. But the thumb rule or the concept how it works is generally people use OU from two perspectives. I think we are going in very advanced thing, but OU people use from two perspectives. One is from the management of the accounts, right? So it's not just the payment perspective. Even if you want to apply some security, you can easily apply with help of organization unit OU. Even from a cost perspective, let's say one account, let's say account C has some reserve instance or some sort of benefits. So those all benefits, since the billing is from the OU, you get a larger thing, right? So as I mentioned, if I go in the pricing slide, I highlight one point that the storage price decreases per GB level as your consumption increases. So now when you see account, let's say A, B, and C, 3 accounts you have as a child, each one is consuming 100 GB, 100 GB. So if you pay as an account level, you will be only paying for 100 GB. But when you collate together and pay on the master account, you're paying for 300 GB. So you will get a couple of discounts on that. So those are the two advantages what you get. Now specific in relation to free tier, is it applicable on the child account or not? Because even though it's launched via OU, please allow me a time. I will post on the Slack or I will get back to you next week before our next session. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Because for other pricing, I have seen working out well that if you're connected with OU, the rules apply on this all the accounts. The master account where the OU is launched, as well as on all the child account. Specifically for free tier, let me look into it. Because the billing happens on the OU, that's why. Any other questions do we have? Thank you so much for holding your patience throughout the sessions. Yeah, and next week we'll come up with more concrete sessions, not just the high level theoretical. Which will be more of demo and more of hands-on session. We will learn and we will see how to do the demos and other stuff. So, and meantime, please go through this slide. I'll upload the slide and share it on the Slack. Go through this. If you have any questions, post it on the Slack itself. I'm there on the Slack channel. So put me on one-to-one or on the channel, or you can come back and ask me in the next session also. But please go through this so we can look forward and we can have more fruitful outcome from this bootcamp. And I think I see one more question. Does AWS hire for remote support agent from who have AWS? Is there any other criteria? Sorry, does AWS hired for remote support agent from? Okay, so basically see, again, I will repeat. I think there's one good question that does AWS hired folks who are AWS certified for any sorts of support, remote support job, right? For sure. If we talk about the entire AWS, right? They also have a very good support system. Like if you have any technical queries, any sorts of support, AWS do have a complete different support team who help you in all different sorts of questions and queries which you have. Like let's say billing is there, or for an example, your account got suspended or hacked. Right? This is a specific team to help you out with that, right? So for that, AWS always look out for support engineers, right? But again, as I mentioned very clearly, certification is not a mandatory thing. Your technical expertise, your hands-on capability is mandatory, and certification is a way to assist and to give a credential to you based on your knowledge, what you have accumulated via hands-on. So if you have very strong hands-on experience and you're very good with foundational and fundamental of AWS, then you're good to go ahead with it. Certification is not the certification is more like an entry pass, in simple words, that will just take you towards the gate. The journey after the gate completely depends on your knowledge and your expertise. And that's not just for AWS, that's for any company who's working on cloud. Hope I answered your question. Okay, cool. Any other questions, guys?
I think we have covered all the questions. Thank you, Bhaiya, for your valuable time. It was an honor to have you with us today, and looking forward with more insightful sessions.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Stay safe, and
Thank you
I'll
very
see you
much.
guys next week. Thank you.
Sure.